I'll call this meeting to order. Today is Wednesday, September 5th, 2018. Welcome to the West Bridgewater Board of Selectmen meeting. The meeting is being audio and video recorded. It will be shown on local access television. If you please stand and join me in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yeah. The other one. Bottom right.
Here now?
All good.
Now I can hear. Thank you.
Okay. First on the agenda, we have Jacob Ing. We had the pleasure of meeting Jacob at the last meeting, and tonight he's here to be sworn in. Is Annie out there?
She should be on. She knows to come.
Okay. All right. I guess we'll hold off a minute. We'll move down to approving the meeting minutes of May 2nd, May 16th, June 4th, and June 6th.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
And accept for review the meeting minutes of July 11th, 2018. Is there a motion?
Motion to review?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Closing of Auto Drive 1. David, do you want to quickly explain that?
Yeah, just unfortunately, they have, at this point, we've received word through the police department that they're closed. I drove up there personally myself. There's no doubt that they're closed. They never contacted us. So we're reviewing the statutory requirements for revocation, but it just happened last week, so we thought that it was incumbent on us to inform you as the licensing board.
Where is this located?
On Route 28, heading towards Bridgewater on the southbound side.
Okay.
Come on, you waiting for me?
Thank you, David.
You're welcome.
There she is.
Our last many customers downstairs, sorry. I know, huh? I'm sure. Are we ready for me?
We're ready.
All right. Are you Jacob?
I am.
Hi, I'm Annie, the town clerk. Got something all over my sweater. Just don't get my from this angle. All right.
Too late, Annie. It's rolling.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Jacob Ing,
Do solemnly swear and affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will faithfully and impartially
that I will faithfully and impartially
perform all my duties incumbent on me
perform all my duties incumbent on me
as firefighter EMT
as firefighter EMT
for the town of West Bridgewater
for the town of West Bridgewater
in accordance with the Constitution of the United States of America
in accordance with the Constitution of the United States of America
and the laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts
and the laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts
and the town of West Bridgewater
and the town of West Bridgewater
to the best of my knowledge and abilities,
to the best of my knowledge and abilities,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Jacob, and welcome.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yeah, Chief, why don't you take a picture with him with the board?
Jacob, Jake back there, could we take a quick recess? Okay, up next we have Happy Place Nutrition. Is there a representative? Do you want to come up and explain what you're doing to the board, just briefly?
Stand here right here.
You can sit if you'd like, or stand, up to you.
So we're opening a nutrition club, and what we do is focus on getting the community healthy with weight loss challenges, fit camps, but we do serve protein shakes and recovery shakes for after workouts and things like that in like a bar setting. Like, so there'll be a small shake bar in the place. We do a lot with community outreach, helping local families that are in crisis by fundraising and things like that, and just trying to promote a positive place to be.
Make old people younger.
You feel young when you come in.
Too late.
We're fun to be with.
Where is this located?
4 South Main Street, right next to the famous Crystal's Kitchen, I guess.
Prime real estate.
Yeah.
Nice place to go.
Yeah, it's good. everybody's been good, so.
Are there any other questions?
Hours of operation? Or?
I think we're gonna try to do 9 to 5, see how it goes, and tweak those hours depending on
Right.
what the need is.
Okay.
Okay. If there's nothing further, is there a motion?
Motion to grant.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Can I just ask that you amend it to just do it subject to final inspections?
Subject to final inspection. Add to the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Good luck.
Perfect, thank you. Thank you so
Well,
much.
thank you for coming in.
Thanks. Thank you, sorry, I'm
Over here.
cleaning all the. Thank you,
luck,
guys.
Jen.
Thanks,
Thank you.
we'll see you soon.
Okay. Up next, we have Nara Hookah Lounge. There was an incident a couple weeks ago. Sergeant Warner wrote a report, so I'll ask if you want to just summarize your report for us first.
On August 12th, 2018, at about 23:26, dispatch received a 911 hang-up call from the Nara Hookah Lounge. On callback, this hang-up call was immediate. There was nobody, didn't even record because the officer didn't have time to answer the phone. There was nobody there at all. So the dispatch officer then called back the Hookah Lounge. Mr. Karamantic, he acted surprised why the police were calling. He stated they got a 911 hang-up call from that. Then he began to explain an incident that happened inside of his lounge where 4 individuals were pulled up in a van right outside of his door. They were passing a bottle around inside of the vehicle, drinking. He stated that 2 of them were, quote, wasted, and 1 of them was drunk. Third one was under 18, but she had a passport. And he didn't get a direction of travel. He didn't report on this phone call any altercation or fight at that time. I walked in moments after the 911 call was completed, and they told me about it, and it's our policy to go and send an officer. I said, I'll go. So I then went and spoke to George directly. Mr. Karam told me that he witnessed the 4 of them passing a bottle around inside the vehicle. The driver was extremely wasted. There was another one that was extremely wasted, and another one that was what he would call drunk. And then he let them in. He admits to letting them in to sober up. He sold them 2 hookah pipes at $50. When they tried to order alcohol, he refused them alcohol. They then caused a scene, started yelling, screaming. One of them took a hookah pipe and threw it. He then left. I'm sorry, the 4 individuals then, he went over to the phone, as soon as he picked up the phone, the 4 individuals then ran out, jumped in the van and took off. He didn't get a direction of travel. That's essentially the facts. This incident wasn't, in my opinion, wasn't reported to us per our rules and regulations, and he had no intention of reporting it to us until a 911 call was placed back to him, and I actually went and got more information.
Thank you, Sergeant. Mr. Karam, did you want to add anything?
Yes, I really wasn't surprised when the 911 dispatcher called. I was just, when the 911 call did not say Town of West Bridgewater, it says like, I think GMA. So I wasn't sure it was 911 or somebody else calling me. Wasn't surprised, I just was mixed up. When they came in, they were drunk. We let them sit down. When they asked for the liquor, I said no. A couple of them did get rowdy. I threatened to call the police if they don't behave. Then I pick up my pen and paper and walk outside to get their plate number. I figured that's the best thing to do first. When I was walking back in, I saw them out of the door. I ran to grab my phone. Usually I keep it on the counter, wasn't there. I grabbed the other one from the kitchen, went outside, 911. The van was leaving. Wasn't leaving, the van already left. I went outside the parking lot. The way I came to hang up, I didn't physically actually hang up. The handset went out of range. I came back in, put it back on the base. I was talking to the customer. Did anybody see which direction they went? They said no. And this time, this happened also quick. The phone rang, I picked it up. I think it did say GMA, it did not say. He asked me, this is the dispatcher, what happened? I told him exactly what happened. I supplied the dispatcher with the plate number. If my intention was not to report the call, I would have made a different story, but I did actually reported it. Then the sergeant came in, I told him exactly the same way I told the dispatcher. I did report it. I mean, we want to work with the police department, we know the sergeant, we like him, he's a good man. But maybe it was, and he did explain it to me, he said, look, next time they come in, don't let them in. If you let them in, call us. Well, now I know. If we ever have this kind of situation, we let them in, we will call. But honestly, when we went for the tip test, which I went to a class, not online, they never mentioned. Somebody walks in drunk, called the police, they told us, let them sit down, offer them either water or coffee, no charge. And I really thought I was doing the right thing, let them in for an hour at least. And we did refuse to serve them, that's the reason they get rowdy, because I said no. Like I said, we don't want to have, we want to work with the police department. But the main reason, like I said, the phone went out of range, which I didn't tell that to the sergeant because I didn't think it was necessary. I made a mistake, I told him I hang up, it wasn't really a hang up.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Or?
What time did this happen at?
What time you get the call, Sergeant? 11:26, you said?
Yes.
Must have like it didn't take that long. Like 2 minutes maybe when they start to be rowdy. Like 11:24. I mean, I wasn't looking at the clock too much, but it happened at 11:26. They got the first hang-up call, or the accidental hang-up call. It must have happened like 2 minutes before, because this really wasn't,
So what time do you close at?
Well, we closed during the week. We closed at 12.
Close, so 45 minutes for half an hour before closing?
Yeah, but they were in before. They were in for like 20 minutes. They walk in at 11:05. I think that's what I showed the sergeant.
So
when I scanned their ID.
2 were wasted, according to this. 2 were wasted.
Yeah.
1 was drunk, and the 4th was underage.
Yeah, the guy was underage. I don't know. I think he was drinking too. I'm not sure. There was a birthday party when I refused to serve him. One of the girls, oh, it's my friend's birthday. I said, I'm sorry. The birthday girl was sober. You know?
So,
and she was the oldest.
I guess what I'm trying to understand in reading this, and this is my first time reading this whole thing, it sounds like they were out in the parking lot doing their drinking.
I saw them in the van drinking.
And then they came in to sober up. How were they?
No, they came in. They didn't come in to sober up. I let them in to sober up. Okay. They came in. Oh, when they walk in, I was talking to them, and I can tell the rowdy one who put the hookah down, he was wasted. He wasn't driving. Oh, we're here for a hookah. And that I said, okay, they're here for a hookah, let them in. Because I was going to tell them, if you come in, no drinks. But they told me already, oh, we're here for a hookah. I said, okay, come on in.
So, but I'm trying to figure out how they're going to sober up. If they're that wasted, how they're going to sober up in half an hour. And then,
no, it's an hour.
What is the, when you have someone enter, you have a liquor license, so when you have someone come in this kind of condition, what is the protocol when you know you're closing in a half an hour, 45 minutes?
No, they came in, they walk in at 11, so you have an hour.
Okay, so let's say they have an hour. No one's going to sober up in an hour.
Well, if they didn't, I would have asked them to call Uber.
Okay, but I guess what I'm trying to understand at that point, you have 4 individuals in your establishment, 3 of which are in no condition to drive. Yeah. Is there a protocol to go outside and get the license plate to make the police aware that there's a potential danger? To the
as
public.
far as to my knowledge, there is no protocol to call the cops. The protocol is to offer them Uber.
Okay, did you offer them an Uber?
No, they left.
Okay.
It all happened quickly.
But when the things were being thrown around, the hookahs and all that,
wasn't thrown around. The guy just knocked. I think when he actually was walking out, it fell. He didn't. My daughter told me he was walking out and he hit it. Okay. Didn't break.
I thought you said they threw the hookah.
Well, maybe wrong use of language here, but.
Okay. All right. So, and you did get their plate number, or you didn't get?
I did. I gave it to the dispatcher and to the sergeant.
Okay, so you have the plate number of the individuals. Okay.
We got a direction to travel.
And that's
my biggest issue is that he witnessed them drinking in his parking lot, right outside his door before letting them in. He witnessed them, told me himself. Witnessed them passing a bottle around inside the car. So right there, not reporting that. Then he let them all come inside of his place. He knew that at least 2 of them were wasted and 1 of them was drunk. He still let them inside the door, regardless whether he served them or not. He then took responsibility for them and let them inside of his establishment. like you said, with inside an hour of closing time. And then he has what always happens, an incident occurs. And then he failed to report the altercation inside, and he's told me that a hookah pipe was thrown, but it did not break. But his language when I answered the call was one of them threw a hookah pipe in anger, but the hookah pipe wasn't broken.
So I think we all know that drinking in a parking lot is illegal.
I think what went wrong here was they were invited inside in the first place.
Well, I think just...
Okay, he should have just reported to the police and let them handle it. If it was on the outside, it should have stayed outside. That's being used in judgment when you take it upon your own hand and you're going to try to make something when people are already drunk. I mean, that's a police call all the way. When they're out in the parking lot and to invite them in is using, to my estimation, very, very poor judgment. And you try to take it upon yourself, when you see what happened, it got worse. I don't know. Like I said, these things, I know these things happen and everything else, but they were already wasted when they were out in the parking lot, and they should have been picked up right down and there. And at least they were outside then. Once they get in your establishment, then you are responsible. You're responsible all over the law, but inside there where the liquor is served, you're more responsible.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I agree there, based on this policy, it's clear that by not calling immediately did violate this. I think that you did do some things right once they were in, once the altercation began to happen. Calling 911 was the right thing to do in that case, and definitely not serving them more was the right thing to do, but they shouldn't have been let in the first place. The police should have been called once you witnessed them drinking.
If I knew that the thing to do, I would have. Like I said, nobody, even in TIPS training, they don't tell you to do that. And that's what we saw. We went to TIPS training for, to tell you everything to do.
Yeah, no, I get that, but it is in our policy. I mean, not that exact example, but it is that if you witness any, if there's any altercation, criminal activity, or medical emergency that occurs on premise, including the parking lot or exterior of the building, the manager should call West Bridgewater Police Department. It does say that, so I guess the next step for us is, what do we want to do?
What are our options?
Question from the floor, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
This feels an awful lot like a hearing. And under the liquor policy, that requires notice and requires procedures. And right now, if you're about to make a determination of a violation or a warning letter, you are way outside your policy.
So it sounds like a hearing because
That's
we're
your
asking
policy.
questions?
No, not that you're asking, well, yes, you're asking questions,
I
but
understand what he's saying,
Oh,
that
okay.
if we were to make a determination to suspend a license, that a hearing could be necessary. David, Tracy, would you agree with that?
Do you have the policy in front of you?
I do. Do you want to see?
Oh, so what you're saying, this is more of a meeting than a hearing?
yeah, you can make no actions off of this in regards to his license without violating your own policy.
Yeah, so I would agree that before you can issue, if you are inclined to agree that a violation occurred, I would schedule a hearing if you plan to discuss potential penalties.
Okay. So is that the designer?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll make a motion, we call for a public hearing
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
on the subject.
Okay. All right. So we'll do that. It will, I don't know, post period 14 days, so it might not even be the next meeting. It might not be until October. So we'll keep you updated, George. Tracy will notify you.
I'll give you formal communication.
So what does that exactly mean?
Nothing happens right now. essentially the same conversation will happen again in a public hearing, where the board will determine if it wants to take any action, and if it does, what that will be. Okay, that's all. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Because he's gunning for you. He's gunning for you.
Okay, up next we have site plan review for Grace Church. This is a new church going in the Hockomock Plaza next to the liquor store. David, did you want to briefly go over this?
Sure. It's standard site plan review. There doesn't seem to be objections. The applicant has already met with the planning board, although they haven't obviously taken any action on it yet. Basically, you'll recall where Hardy's Flooring used to be, and there was a floor shop to the left of that. They're going to combine those two facilities into one facility. They're expecting an occupancy of somewhere around 130 patrons, and so they're just going through their site plan review. But other than that, there's no other issues with it.
So they haven't opened yet, right?
No, definitely not.
Were they granted a permit for the sign?
I don't know. Is there a sign there now?
There's a sign there, yeah.
I'm unaware of a sign.
All right. Does anyone have any concerns or anything that would like to be passed on to the planning board?
Is the parking adequate there? It's used to a retail where, you have patrons in and out, not stationary for hours, the parking.
Yeah, you said what, 65 occupancy, is that what you said?
It's 132.
Oh, 132.
And based on whatever the metrics are, they need to make sure that they have 30, I think it's 35 dedicated parking spots. So based on the size of that and from the plans that they've submitted, the building inspector believes that there would be enough adequate parking there. I don't know if that also includes somewhere on the side, but that's exactly what the planning board, and if that's one of the concerns of the board, we'll certainly put that in the comments that get issued to the planning board.
Yeah, I mean, I share the same concern that it wouldn't have an impact on the other business in there when they were operating, although it's probably only a few hours a week that there'd be that many people in there.
But it wouldn't be a good area to have any street parking.
Yep.
Those lots were full.
Yep, you'll see on page 70 in your packet, you'll see that the building inspector refers to his concerns about parking in relation to the neighbors, and that's exactly what will have to be addressed at the planning board. But we could certainly add that as part of the board's comments as well.
How about the lighting? Is that adequate?
Yeah, I assume you're referring to exterior lighting?
Yeah, right.
Okay, are there any other concerns or comments to pass on?
No.
Okay, is there a motion to pass this to the planning board with those comments?
Motion to pass to the planning board with the comments made.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Cook and Company contract approval. This is for a third-party injury insurance advisor, I believe. $2,300 a year it's a 3-year agreement, same as we've paid for the past number of years.
Now, this position, is that saving us money, or is it?
Yeah, so what they do is that under 111F, Mass State Law, in reference to if a police or firefighters get injured on duty, we're required to pay 100% of those expenses. So we already have an insurance carrier that handles that. The problem is that when somebody goes in, say, for an MRI, that MRI provider is going to bill our insurance carrier at full tilt. The insurance carrier's just got to pay it. That's all they got to do, and then our premiums will be reflected from there. Okay. What Cook and Company does is they're a third-party service provider, and for $2,300 a year, they take every single bill and they analyze it to make sure that the carrier is not being overcharged. So, for example, this past year over FY18, there was $87,000 or $88,000 worth of claims, and they actually reduced it by $59,000. So for $2,300, our insurance carrier saves almost $60,000, which in essence allows us not to see our increase in our premiums. So it's well worth the expense. As insurance administrator, I sign the contract every single year, But what, in my contract, my conversations with them, is that they had said that they were hoping to do a multi-year contract, and I said, well, the only way we're gonna do it is if you agree that you won't increase the expense to us. So they agreed. So it just seemed like a no-brainer. So that's why it's before the board, because I can't sign a multi-year contract for insurance.
How many years is it?
3.
And it's the same price each year? No increases?
That is correct. So your vote is just to award the contract to Cook and Company.
Is there a motion?
I motion to award the contract.
Second the motion?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, ratify the CBA with the library union.
Yep, so a handful of months ago, this has been a long process. It's taken us about a year as they are a new union in town. However, in executive session, and I believe it was in July, you voted to accept the terms. We then went back to the union. They have agreed to all the terms. So per open meeting law, you now have to ratify in open session. And as part of that contract negotiations, they had filed an unfair labor practice because we were looking to remove a position that was already in the staff. They didn't want to remove the position, so they filed an unfair labor practice. We sat in Boston for one day. The reality is we have management rights. We don't have to have a position if we don't want to. And as the negotiations finished, we were able to remove that position. And as a result, that has been dismissed. And it is just the CBA now is before you for your ratification.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Motion, I'll give you a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Public comment period. Anything from the public?
Well, the only thing is, I've been, getting telephone calls and wanted to know, John, Cruz ran on stickers and been nothing in the paper. There's a whole election in the paper today from the Brockton Enterprise, and nothing about John. And John won the sticker for the general court. He'll be running in the full election in November.
They had a hand count those votes
Yeah,
last
I
night.
know.
They were there
Amy
late,
had fun last night.
and it was really hot in that room. They deserve a lot of credit, everyone who was working in there.
Well, maybe they're going to be doing that throughout the other election, because I was listening to something there to fix the hacking of the election. They suggested there they were discussing this. It has to go back to the hand counting, because there's no other way to fix it with those computers.
Well, I know
The
how long it
computers
took
get
them
into
last
that
night. I
hack.
can't imagine what it was like in Brockton trying to count
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
all of those handwritten.
Yeah.
I imagine tomorrow will probably make the empty bribes. Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else? No? Okay, moving on to the town administrator's report.
So at our last meeting, we discussed municipal aggregation. Our one-year contract was expiring in November. We went back out to bid. We received a handful of bids that came in. I worked with the chairman. We were on multiple conference calls. We looked at all the numbers. And after looking at all the numbers, we came to terms to sign a 3-year agreement at a standard rate of $11,326, which basically means that will be the same rate locked in for 3 years, regardless of the way energy costs go up or down. Again, it will be the same terms and conditions as it was before. If people want to be able to opt out, they're more than welcome to. They are not locked into it. They can lock out. For example, during the winter months, the rate is normally much higher. The national grid rate this past year was about 13.5. The anticipation is it'll be about the same. So I would advise people to be able to make sure that they remain in this program during the winter months. During the summer months, National Grid's rate this past term was at 10.3. Let's assume that they go down to that number again. Then my recommendation is people can opt out at that point. Obviously, you have to remember to do that. You just go on the website. It literally takes about 1 minute, and you click on it, and then it takes one billing period, and they take you out. But in any event, it's a 3-year contract. You authorized me to be able to vote on it, to sign on it last time. So it's really not a vote that's necessary. All I want to do is provide an FYI to the board as to where we were and do a follow-up since we discussed it at the last meeting.
Thank you.
How do we get this message out to the residents so that they can make their decision as to whether or not they want to opt out.
So
I think that's what was, it was the notice part and understanding their options.
So, I mean, I recall last time we did place something on the website and downstairs at the town clerk's office. We will do the same thing. If you're already opted out last year, then my understanding is that you're not going to be back, you're going to remain with National Grid. You've already opted out. So if you have not opted out, then you're going to be switched over from last year's supplier, which was NextEra, to this year's supplier, which will be Direct Energy. And again, we'll make sure something is posted on the website if people want to opt out. But again, people are free to do whatever they want, but I just don't see any benefit, certainly in opting out in November, because they're guaranteed to save money. But again, that's a choice.
Yeah.
When you do the post, David, will it show what National Grid's summer, what the summer rate is now and what the, do we know what the winter rate is proposed by National Grid yet?
Nope, they'll be going out to bid in 2 weeks.
Okay.
They always go out the third week of September. So when they go out in that time, we'll know what the winter rate is, and we could certainly post it at that point.
When is the deadline to opt out?
Well, it starts in November 1st, so usually they'll have the month during the month of October to be able to do it. But it does take one billing cycle, so if they opt out at the end of October, they're probably going to be in it for 1 month. If they opt out at the beginning of October, they will probably catch the November billing.
Can they opt out in September?
Sure.
Okay, so if we can get that notice out as soon as possible and they opt out, then they won't be billed at all by the new company if that's what they so choose.
That's what it sounds like.
Okay. The other option that I know about is you could also have your, if you want to, I mean, everyone has to decide on their own whether it's going to be a savings or not, but they could also block their account. And then no one can switch them over. National Grid will give that option to block your account.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll post that on Facebook and all that. David, do you mind doing like a 3 or 5 minute video that we can put on Channel 9 to get people that way?
And also, I've spoken to the consultant. If you would prefer, you'll recall last year he came in, he was able to answer some questions as well. I can always invite him to a meeting if you'd like to do that, so we can also get to.
Or maybe have him do a quick video with you if he.
Okay.
He probably knows more.
Will do. Next is installation of exterior cameras at Town Hall. The police chief reached out to me. We have cameras currently attached to, on a pole, but in front of the existing police building. And what that does is that gives us the ability to be able to monitor traffic on Route 106. Route 28 is dark, and so we don't have, and when I say dark, we don't have any cameras that's able to capture any of the information on it. So the police chief's feeling is we have an Amber Alert, you have any other type of alerts that go out, we have no ability to be able to assist in that. So ideally, he would like to be able to put them on the intersection of Route 106 and Route 28, but that would be it would be costly. So instead, what we'd like to do is put the poles here out front of Town Hall, and the cameras are already paid for. All he has to do is just tap directly into the Town Hall, use our energy source, so we can do it fairly inexpensive and still have coverage on Route 28. And because it's just town land, meaning specifically the Town Hall, that he doesn't have jurisdiction over, he's just looking for a vote from the board to allow him to do that.
Any questions, or is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Question from the floor, Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
What's our retention policy? Does this board know, or perhaps would the Agni know, the retention policy for data taken through those cameras right now?
I want to say the police chief told me 30 days, but is that correct?
So it's connected, it's covered, it's attached to a DVR player, and it's either 30 days, 60 days, and 90 days. I'm not sure. I don't want to say the wrong thing. I believe it's 30 days, but just to be safe, it's one of those three. I am unaware of what the exact retention policy is. All I do know is that once you eclipse that time period, it overplays it. So once you go past that period of time, you lose it forever.
Follow-up, is there also a policy for who can access that video?
I do not know.
Is there a policy in place at the police station through the WPT of how these cameras are used, how they can be searched, how they can be reviewed, how information can be shared?
I'm sure there is. What I'll do is I'll touch base with the chief, and if there is one, I'll certainly make sure you get a copy of it.
I think before a vote is taken, that information would need to be known.
Well, I mean, I personally have confidence that the police department, I mean, we trust them to do their job.
I mean, they've already taken the pictures on 106.
Yeah, I mean, they have access to everything in their computers and everything anyway. I don't think it's any different than information that they'd have access to than they wouldn't on a regular basis.
I think if we voted on it, subject to compliance with all statutory requirements, and then let them finalize the statutory requirement, make sure they're in compliance, would that be adequate?
I'm just curious how those cameras are used, who has access to them, and how that data is shared. I mean, from a civil rights standpoint, there are serious considerations that I don't think have been taken into account by these cameras, because first they were just high enough to take the license plates, and now they're actually taking pictures of faces as they drive. I believe those cameras, the lower cameras, were added second, weren't they? Wasn't it first?
I don't know.
So,
I mean, look, I fully understand what Mr. Dupuy is saying. All I could say is that, unfortunately, we live in the 21st century, and cameras are everywhere. Drive down Mass Pike, Route 93, Route 24, there's one on the bridge. I grant you there should be a retention policy, so we know, and we'll find that out. But they're on public roads. There's no expectation of privacy if you're on the public road. And again, there is serious public safety concerns that somebody puts out an Amber Alert and they drive down Route 28 and we could have helped a family and we didn't. I think that we have to balance that. And that's why these cameras are out there.
if I may respond, I have no problem with the cameras. I believe that we do live in a photograph society and that, video usage is something that can be beneficial. All I'm asking is, what are our policies? What are our protections? That's all. And I haven't heard that there aren't.
Yeah,
So I think, if you're ready, I'm prepared to make a motion to approve based on it being statutorily compliant and us having a published.
Statutory compliant isn't something you want to throw in there.
Oh, I don't?
No.
Why?
Because the statutes are pretty much amorphous at this point. It goes to individual use, and the policies that you're looking for are on an individual basis. It's kind of a common law approach, not a statutory approach.
So basically, there is no law about it. It's just keep it as long as you want and do what you want with it? Is that what you're saying?
There's case law, I believe, that says you can't use it to write speeding tickets and that sort of thing.
Oh.
But I don't.
No, you're absolutely right. It can't be used as a law enforcement tool on civil matters.
Okay. So it would be a case law compliance? I'd like to see us move it along as long as we can.
Yeah, but vote it clean. Go ahead and vote it clean. I think you're going to do a follow-up, which is fine.
This is my guess, is the
I just want to make sure we address any concerns.
I think what I would ask the board to do is this, is that if you're so inclined to allow the cameras to be there, is to vote accordingly. What I will do is I'll touch base with the police chief. Whatever we have for policies, I'll certainly make sure that Mr. Dupuy receives them. If he takes any umbrage at the policies or he has some recommendations, I'm sure we can discuss it, and then we can always bring it back at a future date, or if it's an internal policy, discuss it directly with the police chief.
Sounds fair.
Is that fair?
Yeah, well, if it's an internal policy, it would also be a matter of public record, so.
Absolutely. Yeah, but what I'm saying, if it's an internal policy, it may not require a vote of the board.
What I'm hearing is the board's interested and inclined to follow up, and that's all well and good. And the vote right now is to put the cameras up, so. No
Is there a
problem.
motion?
I'll make a motion to put the cameras up.
Is there a
I'll
second?
second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Bylaw Study Committee, we discussed this a handful of meetings ago about bringing the committee back. So what I did was I spent some time and I wanted to be able to create what I thought would probably be a working model for it. So right now what I'm doing is I'm suggesting 7 members to be on it. And what I would like to, again, this is obviously subject to whatever you guys believe to be the best approach. But my thinking is that we should put people on there that have some expertise. So I am recommending chairmen of the planning board, ZBA, the building inspector, and then also the conservation agent, only because we are a wet town. The chairman of the finance committee, because many bylaws have some type of a financial approach or aspect to it. And then I also think that it would be important so that we could have 2 at-large residents that would be on the committee as well, that do not sit on any of these other respective boards, so that way you could just have, you know, kind of like maybe a more, you know, maybe a cleaner eye looking at it, because they're not looking at bylaws every single day. Again, just a shot. My feeling is that maybe what we do is you could take it under review. We can review it again in a couple of weeks if there's tweaks, unless, you know, it's perfect the way it is, but I'm not usually pretty good on that first shot. So whatever it is that you want to do, but it was my attempt to be able to capture what I thought the spirit of the board was at that previous meeting.
Quickly, what's the process that you've written out here? So as far as reviewing, presenting, do they come back, present to the board?
Yep. So what they would do is they really need to do 2 things. One is that they have to review existing bylaws, and secondly is that review any bylaws that would be presented to them. They would then review it, and then they would make recommendations to the Board of Selectmen, and they would provide to you the actual article itself. They can't come in with an idea. They have to come in with the article.
Mm-hmm.
So they would bring the article to the Board of Selectmen, and then they also, according to this, have to be prepared to be able to speak to it at town meeting as well.
Okay, all right. We will put on the agenda for next meeting to take a vote to make any changes.
You good with that?
Yep.
Okay.
The two at-large residents, they are voting members?
Sure.
Okay.
And again, this is just a proposal. It's 7 members. You would make the formal appointments. If you want to say 5 and 2, your choice. But and under what I'm envisioning, they would all be full-fledged voting members.
40B process.
Yep, so again, I tried to capture the spirit of a discussion Mr. Dupuy brought before the board back in July. And we have another 40B project in town. So I said, you know, right now what we do is we all work together to the best of our abilities, but it's always nice to be able to have something to be able to refer back to. So I've created this policy. I actually reached out to Mr. Dupuy and asked him to review it as well. So I've taken a look at it. I've also forwarded over to the chairman of the Zoning Board of Appeals, who had no objections. Basically, there's 2 items in here. It's going to identify exactly what everybody through the process would do. And most importantly, would also make sure from a transparency standpoint that at every aspect is that we would post all the respective letters that get sent out on the website. And this might be overkill, but what I do is I recommended that it would remain on the website for a total of 90 days at the completion of the project. Now, these projects can take 2 years. So that means all that information would be up there for the full 2 years. And that way, anybody that wants to review it, they wouldn't have to go looking hard for it. But that's what I have for policy at this point.
Did you ever find out the definite date of the Belmont Street? I asked you to find out. Somebody says 18th, somebody says 11th.
Yep, it's still not
You
posted.
haven't posted yet?
It's not
Oh, I was
posted.
gonna raise that later on. Yeah,
Okay.
it's not posted.
All right.
And it's not up there 48 hours before with an agenda.
Sure, and we have time, but,
Yeah.
but again, I think the spirit of this policy is to make it attempt for everybody to know. I know that was your concern when we,
Yeah,
when
no,
we
this
talked.
part, that's
They
a
were
second
looking-
issue. That's another issue.
They were looking for reports from the police and the fire and on the safety, because that safety is a big issue over there.
Okay, so we'll take this one and the bylaw next week, or next meeting for
That's
a
correct.
vote.
Yep. Next one is just really an update, the town hall painting. We did this room and all upstairs last year. We were able to do it this year, cobbling together leftover funds from department budgets, so it wasn't gonna cost the town any additional money on a tax base standpoint. And we were able to do the entire first floor with all their respective offices as well. I think it all looks good. I know the employees were pretty happy about it. And so that's kind of, in my mind, phase 2. Phase 3 next year, hopefully we'll be able to do both entranceways because they're in especially this one back here. I mean, it has been painted in 17 years. So hopefully be able to group it all, keep it all together and have one nice look. And then I'm hoping in years future, so we can really reduce the expenses to have some type of a maintenance plan. And now we could just do a little bit of painting every year instead of having to do full blown out projects. But with that said, I think the building looks good. It's true to the colors of the town. And just an update that it's all been handled and done. And the last one is just an FYI. I signed off on the use of the town hall parking lot per the policy, and it's just to inform the board.
Is there anything else?
I have nothing.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.